Now you have to check on your end and you can start recording once you see it on your end.
Yep, I'm good.
Okay. Got it. Hey.
Hey, y'all.
Hey, everybody. We'll give everybody a few minutes to come through. Come on in. Check us out.
Yes, yes.
We This is our second speaker in our first installment of our business assistance speaker series, Villard Avenue Connections, connecting professionals with our community. Um, so basically, just want to start normalizing having conversations, about things that affect entrepreneurs, that affect people in our community. Um, so Miss Allegra Delise kicked it off, basically talking about budgeting, and getting our personal finances in order, in order to really start building up the business credit and things like that. Got to get our personal finances in order. Super important. Um, and then, you know, definitely, um, probably even more important than that would be health and life insurance. Can't really handle business if you're not in good, uh, you know, good health, and have a good plan for what you plan on doing. So, yeah, as people are chiming in, we just gonna get right to the point. So, thank you, Ola, for
Hey,
being here.
thank you for having me.
And it's always great seeing you. Been out here working really hard, building the business. Watching you and Cameron since the early days. Really out here getting our people insured, and just kind of teaching everybody about the importance of not just getting life insurance or just not getting health insurance, but getting the proper life insurance and the proper health insurance. So, um, just for a quick introduction, would you mind just telling us about yourself, please?
Yes, ma'am. So thank you for having me. I'm honored and privileged just to come on here today and just share some of the knowledge that I have in this industry. So my name is Ola Summers, but you can call me Ola. I've been in the life and financial service industry for 12, going on 12 years in May. And when we talk about life and financial services, we cover a variety of things such as life insurance, health insurance, credit services. We also do tax preparation, and then we also host workshops for parents so that they can impart that knowledge into their youth. I'm also a wife. My husband is Cameron Summers, and we run Barra Legacies together. And Barra means to create something out of nothing. And the reason why we decided to pick that name is because a lot of the clients base that we deal with, they don't already have an established financial foundation. So we're building from the scratch to be able to help them build up that foundation. Also, a mother of three. We call them the baby bosses. And just really teaching them about financial literacy. And then born and raised in Milwaukee. So not only do I have a client base here, but I also have clients on the East Coast, as well as in the South.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you. As busy as you are, super wife, super mom. We appreciate you. We value your time, so we are definitely gonna get right to the point. But before we jump all the way in, I'm curious. I noticed that you had something unique going on that I wanted to share. It was don't don't go fund me, go insure me, like a capital campaign that you've launched, pretty much like a timeless campaign as well, just ongoing. Could you tell us about that,
Yep.
please?
Yep, I sure will. So September is known as National Life Insurance Awareness Month. And so when me and my team had got together, we were talking about all of the different things that are negative, right, around in life insurance. And so one of the things that we had begun to see was a high spike in people not being covered, number one, and this was a lot of young people. And then we also saw number two, people using GoFundMe as a life insurance policy. And so we said we need to shed some light on this topic and let people know that GoFundMe was not created to be life insurance. And
Right,
so that's how the campaign, was birthed. Don't GoFundMe, insure me. And so what that just lets people know is that check into life insurance, because the thing about it is that we're all going to leave here one day, right? And so knowing that we got to do the things in order to set things up, beforehand, so that we don't have to opt into the GoFundMe campaigns, which a lot of times when you do get them funded, you don't get 100% of that money, because some money still has to go to the GoFundMe, because they're the ones that allow you to set up that campaign. And so it just makes more sense to set up a life insurance policy. And so that's what we just really push through that campaign. Set up life insurance. Don't set up GoFundMe. Set up life insurance.
right, right. And that's I think that's pretty important to share because we are seeing like behind a lot of tragedies, a lot of GoFundMe's popping up. And I don't know how helpful that is, especially when a family already, have income issues and other things there. I mean, you're almost setting up a campaign that could be doomed from the beginning, and
Exactly.
I've personally seen it even within my own family.
Okay.
um, Setting up GoFundMe's um, don't always mean that everybody's going to come out or be in a financial situation at that time to really help with that. And that's why we brought you on for, less than, what people are spending on, you know, taking a couple of kids to the movies. You can probably get a nice, at least burial policy, things like that. So yeah, so as we're getting ready to jump in, I think you briefly touched on this, but just curious, what's your main motivation behind wanting to help people get the proper health and life insurance policies that they need? What's that motivation there for you?
So, the interesting thing is that, a lot of times you have in your mind when you grow up what you want to be. And I never had on my list that I wanted to be an insurance agent. So when the opportunity presented itself, I was kind of like, yeah, I don't know. I'm not a salesperson. But what I began to understand is that it's not sales, it's actually educating. So a lot of the population that I cater to, they don't have a clear understanding of what life insurance is. And so when I go in and I have to deal with clients, I have to help them reframe their mind, because it's been such a negative connotation, that has come with insurance. People thinking, oh, I can't get coverage, or oh, the premiums are too high, or oh, we paid into this policy for years and it never paid out anything. And so my motivation with life insurance is to come in and, number one, first educate you, right? Before I try to push anything to you, I'm educating you. And then I'm letting you know the importance that life insurance is more than just me putting you in the ground and forgetting about you, but it's actually creating legacies that are going to live on after you. And so that's why we call our company, our agency, Borrow Legacies, because we know that insurance is literally leaving legacies. And that's what we push to our people. It's not just for now, but it's actually for later. What happens when you're no longer here? And that's one of the key things why I do what I do, because I want people to understand it's a bigger picture than what has been pushed in the past regarding life insurance.
Right, right, right. Awesome. Thank you for that. So shoot, let's dive right in. So because a lot of people when we were first kind of just talking about different topics, a lot of people brought up insurance, but it's different types of insurance. So this we want to be clear that this is specifically about how life and health insurance can help a business owner, not actually protecting your assets. That's going to be another conversation coming up in the near future. Um, so how can life insurance help a business owner, Ola? Like, what would you say, just as a simple um, answer to a question like that somebody might ask you?
Yep. So you got to think about it too. You when we talk about asset, what's your biggest asset in your business? It's you, right? Because
Yeah.
if you are no longer here, then what will happen to your business if you don't have a succession plan set up? And so when you think about life insurance, a lot of business owners don't think that they need something like that, but that should be one of your number one priorities is protecting you so that that business could still, last if you're no longer here. And so insurance is actually income replacement, right? So it helps to replace that income, God forbid, if something was to happen to you. And I know for me personally, getting into the insurance industry, it was funny because the first couple of years, I didn't even have life insurance. I'm selling it and I didn't even have, well, I didn't have it on myself. My parents had it, but I didn't have it on myself because I was like, I ain't married. I ain't got no kids. I don't need life insurance. And then I
Right.
remember my mentor was like, Ola, how you gonna sell something you don't have? And then I was just like, oh, okay, wake up call. Let me go ahead and get it in place. And that was one of the best decisions I made because I was actually able to use my life insurance while I was still living. And then I will get into that in another question. But what we got to understand is that life insurance helped number one to replace your income, and then it can also provide benefits while you are still living.
Okay. Okay. Awesome. You make valid points. That's true. I mean, all businesses should at least have like some type of reserve set up or whatever the case may be. And um, I'm assuming that a lot of that comes through programs such as these that people set up through their life and health insurances. And I know that you had mentioned that one of the worst one of your worst experiences is having to watch people lose a loved one and get 3 days of bereavement and then have to push through all of that pain, um, emotional, mental, um, you know, uh, uh, just journey that people go through as they experience loss, trying to push through that because they still have to run a business. So I'm curious, if you can you give us an example of how um, a situation, how, this could play out in a positive way by being covered for a person, a business owner that's curious about can you give me a real life example of how this would play out or could play out to my benefit?
Yep. So, in my career, like I said, I've been in the life of financial service for 12 years. So, in my career, I've seen about four people lose their loved ones, right? And whether that's a spouse, whether that's children, and actually going through that process can be very hard, right? And so, for a business owner, if you were to lose your child, or if you were to lose a spouse, or even if you were to lose a parent, my question to you is, would life be the same? And most likely, 9 times out of 10, you're going to say no. And so, with life not being the same, what insurance does is it provides a cushion for you to be able to make it through that next day. Like you said, you get 3 days of bereavement. Can you really mourn somebody that was there every day for 3 days? No.
Nah,
You
not
can't,
at all.
yeah. Where is your mental space? Where is your spiritual space? Where is your emotional spaces? And so, what I've seen, um, particularly a business owner able to do is I've been able to see her from losing a loved one take the insurance money and be able to take some time off to grieve, be able to take some time off to reset, maybe even take some time off to go through counseling because your life now has a new meaning because you've lost this person. And so we never want to think right, about anything happening unexpectedly, or we never even want to think about losing a child or think about losing a spouse or a parent. But the thing about it is that it happens. And so it's better to be prepared than unprepared. And so what insurance to me is, it gives you that bridge to be able to make it to that next phase when life has kind of like sucker punched you and your reality has changed. You're able to maybe step back, because what if you even wanted to relocate? You need money to do that. What happens when your mortgage is due? They don't care that you lost a loved one. They like, okay, our condolences, where that check at? Where is that?
Real
Where
talk.
the money at? Like
And
that.
where's the money?
Those kind of things, the world still goes on even when you have a
Yeah.
loss. And so that's what insurance does. It provides that cushion, because it can never replace a person, but it helps to replace that income.
Okay. Okay. Valid points. Valid points. All the way around. Ola, can you share with us, like, can you give us a personal story of something that happened to you, maybe that we can, really start to look, get the hamster wheel rolling. Again, I think it's more so really trying to draw those personal connections. And I know we can throw a lot of information at people, but we really want real life. I feel like this is an opportunity to give some real life scenarios where people can really start to see, like, oh, okay, like that's how that can work. So could you tell us a personal story about how you was able to use insurance to, in your benefit?
Yep. So when I left my job, I was working for the Milwaukee Teacher Education Center, and I was full time. And so then I was under a grant program. So I went from being 40 hours a week to 30 hours a week. So I was 30 hours a week for a year, and that was cool. But I still had my business as an entrepreneur. That's when I started the life and financial service. So I was still able to replace that little bit of income that I lost. Then that next year, they was like, okay, Ola, you're going from 30 hours to 20 hours. And I'm like, ooh, 20 hours, that's part-time, and y'all cutting benefits. And so I literally just took that leap of faith, and I said, I'm going to go and I'm going to do insurance full time. And so with that being said, I stepped out, and, being young, being healthy, I didn't really think that anything would, life would slap me in the face, right? But I had a
Right.
life insurance policy that I had been paying into, and this is called a whole life policy, right? So a whole life policy actually builds cash for you that you can use while you're still living. Like you said, there's business reserves, right? And so with that business reserve that I had, when I fell ill, and when I say fell ill, it wasn't like I was sick for 2 days and I was able to get back in it. I was sick where I literally had blood loss. And anybody that has ever lost blood and had to have transfusions, like, your energy level is just not where it needs to be. So driving was a task, cooking was a task, all of these different things. And so I was able to go into my business reserves with my whole life insurance policy and pull cash out to keep me afloat. And
Wow.
it was just that beautiful thing of, you never think, right? We always have that, that's never going to happen to me, but it happened to me. But I had that business reserves, and I had that backup plan where the life insurance literally became alive for me, where I was like, oh, you can take money from your life insurance and you ain't got to pay it back. And that's what I was able to do.
Awesome. Awesome. Thanks for sharing that.
You're welcome.
So yeah, wow. This some game changer info. I want to take a minute to tap into our live audience on Facebook. We got Portia, Keisha, Becca, and Shalita. Shalita got a question for you, Ola.
Okay.
Her question is um I'm diabetic. I need some life insurance. What are my options, if any, at all? Please, Ola.
Yep. So the interesting thing about diabetes, or even let's say something like high blood pressure, is you can have pre-existing conditions and you can still get covered. So a lot of times people think like diabetes may count you out, but no, there is a policy literally out there for everyone. So what I would take you through, Shalita, is we would do something called a life insurance questionnaire, and there I could find out, everything in regards to the diabetes. Have you been hospitalized in the past 5 years? How much medication are you on? Are you you on the pill or insulin, and then I'm able to narrow down the choices. So yeah, we could definitely get you covered. So send me an inbox, and then we'll go over that questionnaire, and then I can look into the companies for you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
And then I'm going to drop your email on the live.
Okay.
What email did you want me to put on here for
You
you?
could do the Barra Legacy. So it is, I'm about to text it to you so you can just forward it to
Just
that.
copy it. Okay.
Yep.
So you guys, we're gonna get you guys plugged into her. And this is the point. We want you guys to have, we could have different speakers from anywhere. I mean, because people are smart, you know, bottom line, but we want you guys to be able to really tap into local professionals that are doing this to really help you guys get to that next level. We didn't want this to be, another one of those sessions where we're just kind of talking at you guys and we just leave you hanging at the end. Like, no, we want you guys Villard connections. We want you to plug in into the connect and connect. You know, plug in and get the information and let's start to scale things up.
Yes. For our community too. For our community.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I mean, this is just one of those topics that disproportionately affects Black and Brown communities, and so we have to start normalizing these conversations.
We do.
And so that's why we're having them. So, and we want you guys to be comfortable with it. We talked in advance, and we just want everybody to know it's more of just a chat, a little bit of an interview, but more of a chat. And that's what we want. We want you guys to approach that when you go and talk to your loved ones. When you're sitting down having conversations, it just starts with communication and a conversation.
Exactly.
So yeah, before we dive back in, let's just make sure we don't have any other questions. We got a lot of comments from people. Becca said, I did not know about that for life insurance. No penalties for taking out money. Yeah. So it is not like a retirement fund where you get penalized for taking out early.
Not at all. Nope. So you got to understand this about life insurance. So when you think about like a 401k or a 403b or a TSP, things like that, whenever you have to take that money out, you're taking it out sometimes as a withdrawal or you're taking it out as a loan, and you have to write to the company that houses your retirement and tell them why you need it, right? And I know with some companies, either they can approve it or they can say, yeah, that's really not an emergency. But with life insurance, you build up that reserves and it's your money and you get to take that money out tax free. And so that's why I always tell people, you got your retirement plan at work, which is great, but then I also need you to have life insurance. So then you have two funds, and then you ain't got to even pull from your retirement, just pull from your life insurance to be able to do what you have to do when it comes to emergencies.
That part. Come through with the education, the miseducation of the Black and Brown folks. Yeah. I love it. Hey, this is what we need though. Yeah. I mean, like, how can we, how do we jump to the next level where we have a session and we talking about protecting your assets and you the biggest asset.
You the biggest asset.
Business.
Come on.
So like we do have to start, looking at that and start looking at things a little bit. These are the conversations that other families are having.
Yes, come on here.
And we're not having them. We're missing out on. They're having these, and they're planning for the future.
They're planning for the future. Yes.
And so it's time for us to make sure that we don't miss the shit.
Exactly.
Moving forward. Yep. Because ultimately, go ahead.
Yep. And the thing I just want to encourage a lot of people too, I know that you get mailers through your banks, you get mailers through the mail that tries to entice you to get life insurance coverage, but there is nothing like having an agent, right? Having a person that you can literally call that can check, that can review things to make sure that all your T's are crossed and all your I's are dotted. So I want to always encourage you to reach out to an agent that will literally take you through the steps, because it's so important to have that person. Like me, I go to bat for my clients. Like, they already know they can text me, they can call me, and they be like, oh, I need this, or all of this, or oh, I don't understand this, or the company said this. I'll be like, all right, let me get on the phone, let me see what's going on. And so it's so important that we have those, those conversations, and that we know exactly what we're buying into. So don't shy away from agents. Yes, they may try to push a policy to you, but they also gonna educate you too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much for dropping all these gems, Ola.
No
I can't
problem.
wait to set up an appointment with you. Like I have some basic decent policies on myself and some family members, but like one of the issues that I think that I want to bring up on behalf of other people was like we always hear. So it's time to get past the what we heard, so
Yeah,
we can
yeah,
defer in this question. But um it's really more about they talk about our elderly or our I hate even using that word, our seasoned citizens,
yeah,
like our parents. And they say, the older you get, the harder it is to get a policy. And a lot of these traditional companies, um, they'll give you a little grief over that. And I don't know if that's like some type of commercial situation, but are you able to help out those of us who want to get um, one of a seasoned citizen, loved
hmm,
one in our family insured,
yep.
without costing the arm and the leg?
Yeah. And it's so I'm gonna answer your question. I'm gonna say this first before I answer it. For those of you that do have grandmas and parents, that are seasoned, right? Definitely see what companies they already have, because we have these parents and grandparents that have been paying into companies for years. But if you don't know what company they with, if you don't know what type of policy they have, you can be very surprised when that time comes when you gotta use it. And now you like, grandma was paying into this for 30 years and now it's expired because it was a term, right? It wasn't a whole life.
Oh
So
wow.
you have to really know what they have in place, right? And you got to know what company is for, because it's no database where you can literally type in Grandma Betty name and it's going to pull up what policy she had. No, you
Right.
need to have that conversation with Grandma Betty. Grandma Betty, who do you have your policy with, so that you know? And even as they begin to get older, make sure that you know how the policy is being paid. Is it coming out of their bank account? All of
Yeah.
those kind of things, because I have seen it, in my career, where somebody be like, man, I thought she was paying it, but the bank stopped withdrawing it or something, her account got compromised and now she don't have anything.
Mm.
And so for our seasoned individuals, I have so many children that have gotten policies on their parents. And as you get older, it does get more expensive. That's just the name of the game, because they feel like you're getting closer to that time where you may transition, right? Especially if you have health issues. And so it is so important that you get a policy. I always say get a policy before age 50. When you get a policy after age 50, it can be harder because you don't know what the person's health is going to be. You don't know what the person's income may be, because their income may be more limited. But if you actually have established that, where you've been paying into it for some years, now it doesn't come as a big surprise where you paying 200-300 some dollars. And that's just an example. That's just an example. But you're not paying this extreme amount because now you want to get $100,000 policy and you didn't know it was going to cost your grandma or your dad that much. So yeah, so like you said, let's start normalizing those conversations where you're actually sitting down with your parents. Hey mom, hey dad, what you got? Who your beneficiary? Do we need to add some extra coverage in on there? So that's definitely something I encourage every family to do. Know what your parents have or
Absolutely.
grandparents
Absolutely.
have.
Thank you for that. And you know what? I guess you just kind of opened the light to another situation that I briefly was talking about, and this is about 401ks,
Yep.
but you might be able to help us. So, like, how do we help an older person who track down insurance through a company that may have closed? And I'm asking this because I had a similar question that I posed to my ED about what if someone had a 401k set up with a company that's now closed. She said to refer to the Department of Labor, because the
Mm.
Department of Labor is usually going to be able to tell you who serviced the 401k, or potentially even the insurance. I'm not sure, but that's where she referred to. But I do want to ask you specifically, where would you recommend we start to help someone who may not even remember the name of the company? How do we help them start tracking that down?
So my whole thing is Google can be your best friend, right? And when I say Google is your best friend, to be able to track it down, like you said, you got to do your research. So knowing the company name is going to be the biggest thing, because if you put the company name in your Google search, they usually can tell you who it was bought out by. Now
Okay.
you can connect to, okay, it was bought out by this company. Now let me see if they have a 1-800 number. And then if they got a 1-800 number, then you can call them. The Department of Labor may be able to help, but just think of how many people they service, all around. So having that company name, because usually if a company goes out of business, or even if they get bought out by another company, they're sending you a letter, right? But people move all the time. They don't update their addresses and stuff like that. And so if they try to send you a letter, then it tells you what the next steps are. And then I cannot remember, I have to find it. I'll ask my cousin, but it's actually something that you can go on and you're able to search your name on this particular website, and it'll tell you if you have money out there with the
Yeah.
company. And then, yep, you know what I'm talking about. I don't
Yeah,
know
I
the
do.
name of the
I am
website.
familiar. Like, I mean, it'd be
Yeah,
a lot of random different stuff, but
yeah,
it's a whole list of. I've seen some family members' name even come up trying to figure out
yep.
like what
Trying to
who owe you
figure
some
out.
money,
Yep,
So
exactly.
yeah.
Yep. So that's a good place to go to. So my first thing would try to find that company name, whether you got to contact your old employer, and then use Google to like do your research, because it'll tell you how the company was bought out, and then what customer service ways you could go through.
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you. Look, we dropping plenty of jewels and nuggets. I'm gonna be able to build like a whole like necklace bracelet set from all these jewels being dropped.
Wow.
So then my next question then is, so at the point, I'll come to anybody that knows anything about entrepreneurship. We've all come down that road where we've decided I'm ready to leave my full time job and work for myself.
Yeah.
I'm tired of working for other people. I want to work for myself. That's a whole nother story in itself. We can
Yeah.
talk about that another time, but I get it. Because I'm all for people going out there and trying new things. You'll never really know what you're good at unless you have to take some risks in
Yep.
life. So at the point where, a person has made up in their mind to wrap, I'm leaving this job, I'm putting in a 2 week notice, I'm not working for nobody else. They be for real. Like I was there, I'm not working for nobody else. Um, and so with that being said, we build up all this momentum. We're excited because we not working for nobody else. um, but we don't think about, okay, so you about to lose your health care. you you about to lose your, all all these insurance policies and things that are plugged into the job. And so I guess what would be the first steps? What is the first steps that you would recommend for a business owner who steps into that full-time role? Don't they immediately get cut off from these like life insurance and health insurance, all these things, and they're just kind of like, okay, um what do I do next?
Yep.
um what would you recommend?
So, the thing about entrepreneurship is it's a beautiful, but yet it can be a challenging journey, right? And so I've had people that are entrepreneurs, but they still work a full-time job, and they reach out to me and they be like, look, Ola, before I leave this job, what do health insurance look like for me? And I always love those kind of questions, because it's good that you're doing your research before you actually go dive deep in the deep end, right? Of entrepreneurship. Now, I did not do that. I left my job, right? I took this leap of faith. Oh, God got me. I'm gonna jump out into the wild. This is my season, which, thank you, Jesus, He kept me, but I didn't educate myself on health insurance. So when I was
Right.
leaving my job, they offered me something called Cobra, right? So Cobra is when you're transitioning into that whole new space. And the job's like, we still can provide you some insurance. You just ain't gonna get the premiums that you would get if you were still an employee. So you got the non-employee premiums, which it was costly. And I was like, yeah, I ain't got that. and I don't need health insurance. I'm good. So I'm out
I'm
here.
young. I'm
I'm
healthy.
young.
I
I'm
tried that
young.
too. Yeah, I'm good. So them knees
I'm
start
good.
breaking down.
Yeah, exactly. Or, it's something like an accident was to happen. Like you just never know. Health insurance is one of those things that I know they made it mandatory, right? But a lot of people still opted out. But the first step that you would do is they have something called the Affordable Care Act, right? The Affordable Care Act was put in place under the Obama administration. People call it Obamacare, but it's the affordable.
Obamacare. Hating on
But
Obama.
but it's the legal name Affordable Care Act, right? So
Affordable
the
Care Act.
Affordable Care Act was put in place to help those be able to have the same access to health care. Now, what it's based upon is going to be based upon your income as well as your household size. That determines what your premium is going to be. And so, as an entrepreneur, you may say, well, I don't know how much money I'm going to make as an entrepreneur. We'll go with your ballpark range, and that's how you can get a quote to kind of see where you will fall, right? When it comes to your health insurance. And so if you say, well, the Affordable Care Act, I don't go to the doctor that much, you also have something called short-term medical. Short-term medical is just like it sounds. So it's literally a plan that does not cover any pre-existing conditions. So if you had like high blood pressure, if you have high cholesterol, anything like that, it does not cover those pre-existing conditions. So it's for that person that's like, look, I just need to go get a physical, get my breast exam, maybe get a pap smear, whatever. If you wanted to do something like that, then short-term medical will be your friend if you don't have any pre-existing conditions. Now, if you have pre-existing conditions, then yeah, you need to opt into the Affordable Care Act plan because it's going to cover everything, right? And it doesn't look at anything that you had pre-existing. And so it's so important to get those quotes before you go full-fledged because like I said, I left my job without health insurance. A year after leaving my job, I got very sick. And when I say sick, like I was hospital sick. I was hospitalized, blood transfusion, platelet transfusion, nephrologist, hematologist, rheumatologist.
And this is while you were self-employed.
This is why I was self-employed. This is when
Okay.
I jumped off and I was like, I'm taking faith I'm soaring on the wings like eagles and I'm jumping into this thing.
Right.
And I got sick. And
Oh man.
I ended up with a $30,000 hospital bill.
Oh my gosh.
And I was an entrepreneur, but I wasn't making it like that at that time. And
Right.
so I literally had to file bankruptcy because the medical bills was just too much. And, they didn't have that plan where they would just wipe it all out for me because I own property. And they like, oh, you got property, so you got money. You can pull money out to pay your medical bills. So we ain't finna give you no forgiveness plan to scholarship, to help pay it. And so it's so important that you have something in place when it comes to health insurance. And I had to file bankruptcy with that $30,000 medical bill. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Thanks for sharing that. I mean, that transparency is important, you guys. I mean, for her to even share, like, you know, it took me one bill, one hospital bill as a business owner financially tapped me out the game.
Yeah.
Like, I'm glad you were able to, go into the bankruptcy and rebuild yourself. But a lot of people, they, when that happens, that's the sign to them, the sign that maybe I shouldn't been doing this self-employment situation. But it's not about you doing a self-employment situation. It's about you having your ducks in a row, having things lined
Exactly.
up to
Yep.
support that lifestyle. You know,
Exactly.
um,
Because you
that
know
was
what,
that
too,
was
Angelique, the thing about it is that people like talking about the beautiful side of entrepreneurship. Do it. This is this, but they don't
yeah,
like talking about the ugly side of it. And it is some ugly sides if you don't plan. You got to be prepared for the things that's going to come that you didn't think was going to come. And having the proper insurances in place and, having the business reserves, all of that is important because guess what?
absolutely.
If you're a business, you got to run yourself like a business. Point blank, period. You do.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. 100%. I appreciate the transparency. If we didn't have, things would just sound all gravy all the time. Where, you know, if we didn't talk about how people really did the other side of the story, why people didn't get paid out. It's a whole nother side to that story too, because insurance companies, they really just want documentation. If you were able to put forth documentation to them, they usually be like, cool. But the minute they ask you for some documentation that you cannot provide, Houston, we have a problem, you know.
Exactly.
So yeah, that's definitely important. So then I guess you kind of brought it up a little bit, but I guess I'm curious as far as like anything else health insurance wise that you want to mention before we move on. I think you were probably about to get into some of the supplemental because you were just kind of talking about how people can just get if they didn't have pre-existing conditions. Can you share about that?
Yep. So supplemental insurance is basically when you think about anything that's called supplement, it's in addition to. So you have your main medical insurance, which you could do the major medical, which is the Affordable Care Act, or you could do short-term medical. But what about the supplemental health insurance, such as disability? Right? So you have short-term disability and you have long-term disability. How important is disability? Well, disability can cover up to 60% of your income if you were to ever have like an accident
Wow.
or incident or illness where you needed to still get paid, right? I just had my sister and she just had major surgery. Well, disability has to kick in for you because what if you can't go back to work after having a major surgery? It's so important to have these things in place. She works a job, she's not self-employed, but those are the benefits that a job has. So remember, if we're entrepreneurs and we're running our business like a business, then we need to get the things that businesses put in place so that we're protecting our biggest asset, which is ourselves. So you have short-term, long-term disability. Also, another type of supplemental insurance is they have things like cancer plans, they have things like accident plans, dental plans. All of those are supplemental health insurance benefits that if something was to happen, if you had a heart attack, if you had a stroke, if you had got diagnosed with cancer, you're able to have these policies that kick in and they can provide those income benefits to you so that you could still stay afloat. To give you an example, because I know we like the realness of situations. My father-in-law ran a business, a transitional living home, and he had ended up getting diagnosed with congestive heart failure. Well, anybody that's ever had something with the word failure in it, that ain't nothing good, right?
Right.
And so when he was going through, congestive heart failure, his energy, wasn't there. He didn't even feel like coming into the building, and the business started to fail, right? And so if he would have had a plan in place, like we call them like cancer plan or a critical illness plan in place, where it was, for instance, a $50,000 benefit that the minute you get diagnosed, if you got the proper documentation that you can give to the health insurance provider, they're like, okay, here go your check for 50,000, and you're able to use it for whatever you need to use it for to stay afloat. If he would have had something like that, maybe his business wouldn't have shut down. But because he
Wow.
didn't, and because the people that were there trying to run it for him wasn't able to get in contact with him to see what decisions needed to be made to keep the doors open, the business eventually had to close its doors. And so it's so important that we take advantage of these things in a business write-offs because it's part of your business,
Right.
expenses.
Wow. Wow. Look, I see why you're so passionate about the community. I mean, pulling these stories out that really just, these are real life situations that, you know, made or, you know, or broke something, you
Yep.
know. So wow, that's I'm definitely, if I've never been more interested in my life, I'm definitely interested. Because you would hear people have these conversations about supplemental health insurance, but when you healthy and you young, you be like,
Think
I'm
about it.
good,
Yeah.
fam, I'm straight, but like you said, accidents can happen, anything can happen, and yeah,
Anything.
you can
Yes.
find yourself especially when you go full time, self employment, you don't have, you usually don't have that 401k, you don't have staff members, it's just you, and maybe if you get somebody else that love you and care about you, that's 100% bought into the dream and the vision. Then you have, an extra pair of hands on deck. But you really out there on your own, and one thing can happen. Like if you actually got sick, you catch COVID-19 and you're sick for a month or whatever it is. Like these people have been getting sick and it's been lingering and stuff. But like, what does a month do when you are the sole provider in that business?
I
And
mean,
those are
think
the things.
about it too, Angelique. Like COVID-19, some businesses had to close down legally because if you operated illegally, then the government would get you. So just think about that. A month could make or break your business.
Yeah, yes,
And
you're
you were
right.
sick for a month, that could make or break your business. Like I mean, the way that we saw a disease be able to come in, and even let's not just talk about that, the way the type of health insurance you have can determine what kind of treatment you're gonna get. Let's be
Yeah,
honest.
yeah. And that's what we saw. We've been watching that devastate within our communities, and even elderly, our seasoned citizens that's sitting up in group homes and the facilities and things like that. Yeah, it matters. It
It
definitely
matters.
matters.
It matters. And as people want to try to downplay it, it matters. It matters what you walking in there, because the first thing they're asking you is what? You got your health
What kind of
insurance
insurance?
policy? Yeah,
Who they want to know?
they want
Look,
to know.
I
Yeah.
definitely been on the bad end of a like some years back. I had state insurance, and I needed a referral to a specialist. Um and like the specialist was in Shorewood. Them people did not bother to call me back. They were disengaged, and I know it had something to do with the insurance that I had. And it's crazy too because you could fast forward. I got private health insurance. I probably could go wherever I want, but I wouldn't dare step a foot in the agency over there in Sherwood. Just see how you guys treat people. Like y'all didn't buy. I guess if I didn't sweat them, they really wasn't gonna be bothered with my referral to them because I felt like they just completely judged off the insurance, and I get it, but that was like my first real um like moment of I was like, I can't believe this. Like I'm less than. I felt the whole 3/5 of a person, you know,
Yeah,
dealing
that's
with
real.
Sherwood in this particular dentist office that I probably would never ever go to. Um, but yeah, that was so I can imagine what happens behind scenes of our care. And so you make a valid point. um, I'm curious of a little bit more about the um, the generational wealth side of life um, insurance that nobody really wants to talk about either out loud. But these again, normalizing these conversations that are happening in other people's households. So you know, building generational wealth. How can we start looking at this through that lens? How can we start looking at life insurance as building generational wealth through that lens? What do you have to offer?
So when you think about the word generational, or when you think about the word wealth, it's so many different things that can just play into that, right? So generational means that it's lasting outside of you, right? So it's lasting when you're no longer here. And wealth is not just money, but it's time, it's energy, it's business, it's properties, it's all it's assets, right? And so with life insurance, when we talk about generational wealth, is literally being able to pass income down to the next generation tax free. Now, I don't know about y'all, but if you have $1 million and you got to pay taxes on that $1 million, it's going to be a huge chunk that comes out of it. But if you have $1 million life insurance policy, your children could literally be a millionaire because it's nothing that gets taken out tax wise. So what that means is all of that money goes to your children. So just think about that. If every parent decided in their mind, I want my baby to be a millionaire, you can make it possible through a life insurance policy. You know,
Right.
every business owner says, man, I'm leaving $1 million when I leave here. You can make it possible through a life insurance policy. And those are the type of conversations and the type of mindset that we need to have when we're looking at generational wealth when it comes to life insurance. And not just that, when we talk about the 401k, the 403b, all of those kind of things, you literally can build up wealth inside of a whole life or a universal life insurance policy that you can use to set up a pension, that you can use to set up your annuity, because you can annuitize it, which means you give yourself a monthly payment over a span of years. And so it's so important that when you're a business owner that you look into these things so that you're able to set up for the future, the next generation of wealth. And then even if you don't utilize all of that money in your pension or your annuity from your life insurance policy, guess what happens? It passes on because it's still life
Right.
insurance. And so it's so much wealth now. Look at all of the unfortunately premature deaths that we've had in our society or in our community. If all of those people had had a life insurance policy, think of how much better their children would have been off. Like now, through my grandfather, right, who had a life insurance policy, his decree to my grandmother was, hey, I want you to use a portion of this life insurance money to get my grandchildren through college. That was generational wealth. So I'm a product of my grandfather saying, hey, this money ain't just going to put me in the ground. This money going for my grandchildren. So it was past his children, but his children's children. And now he invested in my education. And I would say that that's generational wealth right there, right? That's a prime
Absolutely.
example. And so just knowing that, man, what I'm setting up now through my life insurance is not only going to be able to benefit the children that I have, but it'll be able to benefit their children. And that's the mindset that other communities and other cultures have. And that's the mindset that we need to be having, because some cultures literally, they'll have multiple life insurance policies on one person so that when that person leaves, now that generational wealth is going and is flowing all throughout the family. So they're able to open businesses, they're able to buy land, they're able to not have debt because they've been able to pay it off. And it's not getting rich off of somebody, but it's actually establishing that family name so that it lives on past that one generation.
Mm.
Girl, you done got me
Well
fired
said.
up with that
Well said.
generational wealth. Yes.
Well said. I mean, you said it all. I mean, at the end of the day, it could be, um, it could be like you said. The child could be going to college, behind, you setting step stuff up, upright. Your kids wouldn't have to see the student loan debt that we see. If you have a lucrative business, this is an opportunity. The life insurance could, be the opportunity for the kids to figure out, okay, this is enough for you guys to keep the family business going, or maybe y'all liquidate and, this kid can start a new business, you know, um, to keep the legacy going. So I definitely, like, I see everything that you see, like you said, land, kids can purchase homes, or, just all of those things. We have to definitely start really having those conversations with our kids. And, I definitely encourage people too to really start being realistic, because I'm starting to see a lot of stuff, end up in the wrong hands because, I mean, you got somebody in the family that got that big old heart that want to pass it down to everybody, but everybody don't work well together.
Mm-mm.
You really have to look at responsible people who are handling business, handling paperwork, that really is going to handle not missing a payment, and, like, watch 30 years of you paying, 30, 40 years of you paying something. Now they missing payments and stuff like that because you want everybody to be, it's too many cooks in the kitchen too. So it's
Yeah.
really sitting
Yeah.
down with the kids and the family too, talking about, who really is going to take up that responsibility and hold it down, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, and you know what just even came to me? Let's take a journey real quick, right? Of somebody that wanted to build generational wealth. Let's use a real example. So say for instance, we got a business owner that's in real estate. And so say that they had this money that was passed down to them tax free through a life insurance policy. And now they bought a property. Now the property that they bought, you don't have to even use it for a person to live in. But what if you made it into an Airbnb? You know how lucrative Airbnbs is right now? So
Right.
now you made it into a family Airbnb. And what I mean by family is the money that comes from this Airbnb monthly. Now you can put it in a bank account so that if something was to ever happen in a family, now we can all go into here and not one person have to pull from their bank account, but we got a family bank account. And it was all through a generational wealth of a life insurance policy. That's how we have to start thinking, being visionaries to say, man, I could own a building, and now this building, all of the tenants that pay into it, I put this money in the bank account and it can be able to feed everybody in the family. We could take family trips together that the asset pays for. But
Yeah.
that's how we have to start thinking in our community when it comes to different things and leveraging the money.
Absolutely.
It's here for us to leverage. It's possible, but we got to have the vision for it. And so those are just some of the things that you can do. And no, nobody just has to leave here in order for you to do it. What if you were able to build up enough money in your life insurance policy that now it's the down payment on that building or the down payment on that house?
Yeah, you said it all. Becca had a question,
Okay.
and this might be more of a real estatey question, but you might be
Okay.
able to answer it. She's saying, is that what a land trust is? Um, I think that is probably a real estate question,
Yeah,
but
that's
we
out of
can get
my
the answer
league.
for
I
you,
wish I
Becca.
knew that. Yeah, I'm sorry, Becca. That's
Um,
like that's out of my league. So
a
I'm
land
just
trust, it might be, Becca. I know that for sure. Like, there's some land trusts. In families, we were talking about that actually within my family too. We have some land down in Mississippi,
Mhm.
and it's being passed down. It can't be sold; it have to be passed down. So there's some type of land trust. We do need to go back and check some paperwork and whatnot. But good question, Becca. Um, but yeah, I mean, these are just really just starting to really have a normalizing having these conversations. Like I said, within Black and Brown communities that other people are having. Like, this might be not even relevant to some people because they're like, oh, we already had those conversations. I get it, I get it. But it's time for us to, really start normalizing having these conversations. In other communities as well. So I mean, it's enough room for all of us to come up together. And to every generation of our kids shouldn't have to start from scratch. So yeah, let's make it rain on those go insure me, don't go fund me, go insure me campaign. I love it.
Yes.
Thank you so much for everything. Ola, you dropped a lot of jewels and nuggets and some great information, some good food for thought that I think, any responsible adult, is going to take that back. Like, okay, I'm going to reach out to her. I most definitely will be scheduling an appointment to reach out with to you. But how can everybody get in touch with you? What's the best way for everybody to get in touch with you if they want to reach out to get more information on health and life insurance?
Okay. You could definitely reach me on social media platforms, so Instagram as well as Facebook. You can just look up Bara, that's Bara, and Legacies, and you can just send us an inbox message. You can inbox me personally, but I prefer to go through my business page. You can reach out to me via email, and I know Angelique was going to put it in there. So it is Bara, Bara Legacies at gmail.com. And those are the ways to reach me. And then even when you go on that Facebook as well as Instagram page, it has the contact number and everything where you can contact me directly. And you can also go to our website and fill out a contact us form, which is www.baralegacies.com. So you can go on there as well.
And I'm dropping it on the live real
Okay.
quick.
Okay,
I'm
cool.
dropping the email again. Bam, I just dropped that. And then also, thanks, Portia. So Portia came through. Becca, I hope you saw that. Land trust is an agreement under which the beneficiary directs trustee in all matters affecting the title the trust to the trust property. Yep, she got it. So then, and then www.bowerlegacies.com, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Well, we know all of this busy work. Um, so we drop that in there for you guys. I'm gonna try to pin that to the top. Okay. I pinned the website
Okay, thank
to
you.
the top of the chat. But yeah, before we go, 'cause we gotta let Ola get some work done. Want to take up all of her day. As much as we appreciate you, we'd love to have you longer. I guess for anybody else that's still one of our participants that's still watching on a live, is there anything specifically that we can share? Just I believe in affirming our speakers on, them what they're sharing is, information. There's some take backs. So anybody want to share or just drop a comment that we can share with Ola about, something that she shared that really stood out to you? Becca said, "Thank you, Ola. This was very informative."
You are welcome, Becca. Thank you for tuning in.
Portia made a lot of comments too.
Thank you for tuning in, Portia. Thank you all for tuning in. So please like and share the video because I think it's information that everybody needs, and then not just getting the information, but actually applying it. That's the biggest thing that I have even been guilty of, right? Anytime I've tuned into something, I'm like, oh, that was good. But then what about the application behind it? It's
Right,
so
right.
key to apply what we hear.
Absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, a lot of comments were made throughout the whole thing.
Awesome.
Let's see. Just people are just like, that is amazing. Wow, you speak the truth.
Thank
I've been
you.
there with my mom and brothers. You know, uh, somebody agreed that the Affordable Care Act saved their life.
Yeah.
Um, and just a lot of thanks and good info and stuff. Let me just go back to the end before we wrap it up. Yep, everybody's Portia, Angela, everybody just said great info.
Thank
Thanks,
you
Ola.
guys.
Thanks,
No,
girl.
thank
We appreciate
you.
you. So
No, I
yeah,
appreciate you.
I'll definitely be reaching out, and I hope you guys reach out to her. And just start getting the information, gathering the information that you need, so you can start to pull together some resources. And for your legacy, for your family and your kids. I mean, at the end of the day, all you can control. I mean, only thing you can do is what's within your control. So at least make sure that you and your family is taken care of, and share this with other people, and hopefully, they can see something there too. So yes, thanks everybody for tuning in.
Yes.
That was our second wonderful speaker, Ola, with how proper insurance protects business owners, and I think she hit all the nails right on the head. And we look forward to having you back. When we continue on with the series, we can get a little deeper. We just want to give people some conversation starters and whatnot, but we can start going deeper into this. I think there's some people that really want to get into the nitty gritty of like, what is an annuity? Like,
Yeah.
I've been hearing about this for a long time, like just to go a little bit deeper. So we can definitely, when it's time, we can go deeper. But right now, we just want to make sure that everybody is on the same playing field right
Yeah.
now, just to get the basic information, and we can just go deeper later. So yeah, guys, check back to villardave.com, villardave.com. We'll have the recording up, and have a wonderful day to everybody that tuned in. And Ola, you most definitely, I hope you have a great
Thank you.
afternoon, and thank you again for being with us.
No problem. Thank you.
All right, we'll talk soon.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right, see you later. Thank you.
You're welcome.